think we are live now. I'm just checking on both Facebook and YouTube. Yep. Okay. Good. So good evening, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to another webinar with IHOPE and PatientsEngage. Today, our topic is vision rehabilitation for better quality of life. I'll do a quick introduction on our panelists, but before that, just a reminder, PatientsEngage is an online platform for patients dealing with chronic diseases and disabilities and their caregivers to share personal experiences, information, and learn from each other. You know, we strongly believe that the better informed you are, and the more proactive you are in managing your condition, the better decisions you will make, the more empowered you will feel. And we put out a fair amount of content, which is local content, both in terms of languages. We have Hindi and English, and we also focus a lot on lived experience and local context. The key objective is to improve the quality of life. Just a reminder for the attendees, this discussion here does not replace a medical consultation, so please consult your doctor for specific medical issues. This session is being recorded, and if you're logged into Zoom, you can post your questions on the Q&A. And if you're on Facebook, YouTube, you can post them on the live feed, and we'll pick it up and answer as we go along. If you have an experience to share, you can always write to us at editor@patientsengage.com, and you can follow us on our social media channels. We are on Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Quick word about IHOPE. IHOPE has been working with us on a series of awareness sessions on eye health. IHOPE stands for Indian Health Outcomes, Public Health and Economics Research Center. It's an exciting, collaborative and interdisciplinary research center that has been set up with a research grant from the Wellcome Trust DBT India Alliance through collaborations between LV Prasad Eye Institute, IIM Ahmedabad, and IIPH Hyderabad. The focus of this is health economics, big data analysis, clinical and public health research, and you can find them at ihope2020.org. And let's get on with our panelists today. We are very pleased to have with us two panelists. We have Ms. Beula Christy, who is a PhD, head of Institute for Vision Rehabilitation at the LV Prasad Eye Institute, and got many years of strong experience. We have TV Aishwarya, who is a rehab counselor now at LV Prasad Eye Institute. She leads the helpline and computer training at the center there, and she lost her eyesight a few years back, and she'll tell her story as well, and how she made the change and how it's helped her, and now how she helped so many other people. And I'm Aparna Mittal. I'm the founder of PatientsEngage and the moderator for this session. So let me get started. I'll stop sharing the PowerPoint. So thank you, Beula and Aishwarya, for joining us today. Beula, what is vision rehab, if you can, or vision rehabilitation, if you can, very quickly tell the audience what it is, because it's not a word that people, know very well. So if you can just quickly explain.
Hello, everyone. So, Aparna, to answer your question, vision rehabilitation is for anyone who is having some amount of vision loss. It could be partial or total, or it could be with vision loss if they have any other additional developmental delays or disabilities, especially in case of children. So, vision rehabilitation is like once if you have some impairment or disability vision related, and the intervention to help you to regain your confidence back, and then to put you on track through various interventions so that you can lead a quality life and dignified life as independently as possible.
Right. Thank you. And, what are the scenarios under which vision rehab is recommended or advised?
So vision loss, it is, nothing particular about age group or about a category of economic status. It can happen to anyone. It could be congenital by birth. Somebody, can go blind or due to some trauma. In case of Aishwarya, she may be talking more about her stories. And then there are certain diseases which are age related. So this can happen to anyone. So vision rehabilitation for all age group, all categories of economic status. There is no gender differentiation also here. So anyone with vision loss can benefit out of the services.
Thank you, Beula ji. Aishwarya, can you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. This is Aishwarya here again. I am working here as a counselor, and I've been associated with LV Prasad Eye Institute since 2011. And I first came here as a patient because I had lost my eyesight in 2008 because of a brain tumor. And then I joined here as an employee since 2013.
Right. So tell us a little bit. You had brain tumor in 2008 and you lost your eyesight because of that. What, but you didn't get to a rehab center till later. So how did you deal with the loss of vision initially? And, what was your reaction to it? What were the loss of senses that you had? And what was the loss of ability during that period?
Well, when I was diagnosed with brain tumor, I was doing my third year of mass communication. And I mean, initially when it was diagnosed, I used to think, oh, it's just, the treatment will do it. But as days progressed, I realized that my eyesight was fading, and it was very difficult for me to accept it because, as a student who's pursuing mass communication, and eyes are so important for me because I was interested in editing. Then when I lost it, I was like, this can't happen to me. I could not accept it. Like, I was angry. I was questioning, like, why me and why this has to happen to me. And following that, besides my health deteriorating, I lost independence. Like, I couldn't move all by myself. I used to ride two-wheeler, four-wheeler earlier, but after losing my eyesight, for me, in the initial stages, it was even difficult to move around in my own house.
Mm,
And so moving out was out of question. And I had to hold somebody's hand and walk. And I was not financially independent. I had big dreams of, doing something with my life, ambition as a youngster. But when this happened, everything came crashing down. I couldn't think of a future where I will be able to earn, whereas I saw that all my friends were earning their living and happy, but it was not the same with me.
right. And and when did you kind of decide to, or how did you come across the fact that there is an option to like vision rehab, or that, something can be done to become independent? How did you get to that stage?
So in 2011, I have been on treatment for my brain tumor, but in 2011, we just wanted to see like what is the condition of my eyes, like could there be any treatment as such. So that is how we came to LV Prasad Eye Institute, and my doctor, Dr. Ramesh K. Kunaya, he examined me, and then he recommended that I should avail the services at Institute for Vision Rehabilitation. And being right here in the city, I didn't know that there existed such services. But then when I came down here, I saw that people who have visual impairment are able to use computers, and that quite fascinated me, because I thought if not for editing, I can at least get into content writing. So I was very happy, and that's how I was introduced. And since after the initial counseling, I mean, I was quite surprised that people are able to move around independently, are able to do their work at home. Then in 2012 is when I underwent the computer training. It's a 3 months course where I learned to use all the applications with the help of assistive technology like screen readers. So that's how my journey with the LV Prasad Institute began.
Right, right. Thank you, Aishwarya. And you said you went through an assessment and you did computer training. Were there other skills that you learned as well?
Yes, later on, once computer skills was the first thing that I learned here. And then later on, I also underwent mobility skills, because for somebody who's visually impaired, one of the difficult tasks is moving around independently. So I learned after joining here, I learned how to use a cane. And earlier I had this stigma that, I was shy using a cane, why should I use a cane, and what will people think. It was in fact Beula Garu, she's the one who actually motivated me to, you should use it for your independence. But when I started using it, I realized how independent I could be. It could be moving, taking like 200 steps outside all by yourself. The happiness that I felt was, I still remember the first day when my friend and I, we crossed the road, went to an eatery, and came back and told that, she's also visually impaired, and we told everyone that we went to this place by ourselves. And today I'm able to travel alone anywhere. Like I've traveled once in a train, and I keep taking flights, Uber. So this is another service that I availed from LV Prasad Institute.
Right. Thank you. Thank you. This is so, nice to hear, and so encouraging for so many others who hopefully will be listening to this as well. Beula, is the rehab, so she was, I guess, in her early 20s, right, Aishwarya, when she came. But is the assessment and the rehab process different for children versus young adults versus older people?
Yes, definitely. So in case of children, the training is not only for the children with whom we are dealing, it's also for the parents, especially certain conditions like ROP or cerebral visual impairment, wherein you are expecting the children to have several other developmental delays. The parents, their main concern, they just notice the child is not responding, not seeing. But then you have to counsel, you have to tell them it is not only vision, but then the other components that are affected. So wherein the crucial role it is to motivate the family members. See, unlike the medical intervention, it is the rehab is no miracle. It cannot happen in short terms. They have to come more periodically. In some cases it is for years together. So in that sense, the program is completely different for children, and it's for adults and for the elderly. And in case of elderly, again, it is completely different because their needs are completely different. There we focus more on their personal independence, personal satisfaction. How do we meaningfully engage them? Probably they may get good support, but many a times family members, out of concern, they sometimes they restrict their abilities. They say,
Right.
like, why you want to take this risk, why you want to do that, we are there. Many elderly people during counseling, they express it. So then we talk to the family members. It's not that you feed them, you take care of them. That alone is not enough for them. They lived a life, and then they have to continue live as far as possible. So we counsel the family members to take them out more often, and then help them connect with their old friends, teach them the basic mobility skills, more of socialization skills, and then bit of personal independence. That we focus. And in case of school going, the focus here is, again, it's different. It is right from again counseling the parents, what type of education, what type of school, because still many parents, they think the special schools for the blind are the best. because they feel out of empathy. They think like, what if my child is teased by other children in the regular school? And then from beginning from there, getting school admission, though it's law, though it is mandatory, the schools cannot deny the admission. But in reality, day to day, the parents are struggling to get admission. So right from their advocacy part, and then training the children on various assistive gadgets, the braille, abacus, tailor frame, all of that, and then preparing various resource materials. So these services are different between the age group, but
Right.
the core theme is the counseling part. They have to pass through the coping mechanism until they come to the stage of realization. From my experience, I can say many parents, many individuals, they say like, no, not for me. But we have to grab that time, whatever is given to us, at least that first hand information, and then allow them to take their time, so that many of them, I see they come back after 2 years, 3 years, and then asking for the information again.
Right. Right. So in terms of that, they take their time to come back. So what is the impact of that delay that happens, and both for younger people as well as older people?
See, that's pathetic indeed, because by the time they come back again, in case of children, they miss the critical developmental period. The neuroplasticity of the brain that works in the early years. The first 5 years are very critical. But many parents, they are not to be blamed. They are in the hope of asking for some medical treatment. They go place to place, this hospital to that hospitals. But we generally counsel, okay, you do everything whatever you want to do, but then parallelly, you please undergo the rehabilitation. There's nothing to lose. You gain more confidence. And then, if at all, if you're not gaining medically, at least this rehabilitation part you're not missing, so that you're not missing the development. So, but sadly, many parents, they bring their children after 3 years, 4 years. By then, you have so limited time left with to intervene with. And same with elderly also. They say like, there's no one to bring me. And many times I notice it is not the financial part that is restricting them, but many other reasons. The earliest you begin, it's easier for the person to cope up with the situation.
Right. Right. I think that is a huge issue, right? Because there's obviously a time commitment, and one of the things we've observed is that for lots of things, there is greater commitment to invest that effort as a parent, and sometimes it's challenging for other caregivers. But also, I think it's often driven by how much benefit there is, right? So I think people are not able to visualize or understand what that benefit could be through that rehab. Coming back to you, Aishwarya, if you can kind of tell us in terms of your day-to-day functioning, right? I think you mentioned in our conversation before about things like cooking or how you continued your education. Can you kind of give us a sense of, you talked already about the cane and mobility training and how you're able to now travel everywhere, whether it's flights, whether it's Uber, etc. And if you can again shed light on things like Uber or apps, how you manage to navigate those now, and also tell us about your other independent living activities.
Sure. So I'll start off with the home management skills. So initially, what happened when I lost my eyesight, I was kind of wondering if I'll ever be able to manage kitchen. But as time went by, I slowly started using doing things, small tiny weeny things in the kitchen, and that kind of helped me. And coming to using hot utensils and all. So when sometimes I've observed the home management skills training that happens here, and I've seen the tricks, the tips that the trainers actually tell the clients. Okay, this is how you can do it. There's a cutting board that has one side it's a white color and on the other side it's dark color. So people who have limited like a little bit of vision, they can cut the darker vegetables on the lighter side and the lighter vegetables on the darker side. So, and also labeling the containers in the kitchen with some bindis and that sort of stuff. So that actually helped me and organizing the kitchen. So today I cook, I'm able to manage my kitchen done pretty well. And as far as coming to education, I want to mention that I had to discontinue my education in 2008. But when I came here, I realized that there's so many resources like audiobooks. We have a digital library here where audiobooks are recorded of different syllabuses like academic books and also competitive exam books. So I actually pursued my bachelor's in psychology from 2016 to 2019 through the audiobooks that were available here. Unlike me, many others have gone on to pursue their higher education like post graduation or PhD. So all these kind of books actually make them like they would it motivates them to go ahead with the education no matter whatever it is. And it also encourages the parents that it's not the end, there's always something that will help their children. And coming to like the regular activity that I do here, it's the helpline for the I run this helpline for the visually impaired. And I realized that when you go through things, when you have experienced the same things that some patients here go through, so you're able to relate to them and you're able to bring them out of it. So the first thing they ask, if somebody they're like, why me, why only me, why this has to happen to me? But at that minute there may not be an answer, but because it happened also with me, I didn't have an answer then. But now when I look back and what I was and what I have been transformed to, I would now change that why me to why not me. So that is how rehabilitation can impact one's life. Financially, your self-esteem increases, you're independent. And another thing, the confidence what you gain, like people don't look down upon you, because it is either from again, people used to look down upon me, and also they would sympathize. But now they say, oh, you are fine, you don't seem to need any help. So the attitude of the people change around you when you avail the rehabilitation services and be the independent person you are.
Right, right. And I guess your own estimation of your self-worth also goes up, right? So that makes a huge difference. There's this concept of self-stigma. And, that is sometimes even more difficult to overcome as well. So I think when you are able to do these things, you become more confident and you have higher self-esteem over time.
Absolutely. I mean, every challenge that you face now seems to, you'll be like, okay, this is a challenge and I'm going to face it. And there are possibilities at the end of it. So it's not a closed road. Earlier, I mean, when my education, I had to discontinue my education, I thought, okay, that's it, this is the end. I cannot do anything. Or even when I didn't have a job back then, I was like, no, I don't know what am I going to do. But now
Right.
I am so happy with my job. I finished my education, and I'm happy. And like I said, my self-esteem, and I'm able to be a contributing member in the society.
Right. Beula ji, what are the barriers that you are observing? I know you talked of a few in terms of delays and people are not being aware, but are there other barriers to access to vision rehab services that you would like to highlight?
Yes, certainly, because the rehabilitation services are mostly, prevailing only in the urban centers, not many in the rural areas. On the other hand, if you observe the, population of visually impaired, they are mostly placed in the rural sectors. So, mainly those segment of population, they are not availing any services. They are confined to home environment alone. And
Right.
also, though they come to the hospital for visits, when you call them for, periodical follow-up visits, it's highly impractical for them to stay somewhere locally. Their financial constraint, and then leaving everything else and then coming here for the training. That's one aspect. The second aspect, sometimes the extended family members. Though the immediate family members, they are motivated to, bring the child for the treatment or for the therapy, intervention, all of that. The extended family members, they always say, no, why is that long? Or wait for some more time. We can try this. We can try that treatment, misleading them. So that's again is a barrier. And the parents, some of them, it is out of frustration, or they are already tired seeing handling such children. So sometimes some parents, they give up. So these are all some of the common concerns, other than whatever mentioned earlier, we feel, because of
Right.
which still the utilization of services, it is just limited to less than 10% of actual requirement.
Right. And for somebody who's listening, and we do hope it, but if this is in English, so it's not likely to kind of go too far into rural. But we will try and summarize this. The challenges of rehab for, how do they navigate help? So because it's also, as you said, it takes time. It uh, takes effort. So, are there government schemes that people can avail of, state support, or central government support, or other NGOs that support? Any information on that?
Yeah, there are centers, rehabilitation centers, like both the government sectors and then the private sector. They are managing centers. It's not that nothing is available. At least per district, at least you can find one or two rehabilitation centers available. I would say, like, it should be the responsibility of the optometrist and ophthalmologist, they being the primary contact. Even a person who is totally blind, if not for anything else, at least they go to the hospital to avail their medical certificate. Based on that, they can avail various schemes and concessions. So when they approach them, like if the ophthalmologist, if they take some time to discuss the rehabilitation aspect with the persons, and then motivate them, and then guide them, just refer them, that's the biggest help they can do, if they can make the referral more appropriately. And
Hmm.
same in the case of children. These days in urban cities, now in all neonatal units, they are having, establishing the rehabilitation units, the early intervention units. And from the government sector also, through RBSK, they are trying to set up the neonatal rehabilitation units across the districts. So the medical faculty, if they take the responsibility, wherever they suspect developmental delays, wherever they suspect vision loss, at least make a referral to such centers, rehabilitation centers. That much if they can do, I think the percentage utilization can increase from 10% to maybe up to 30 or 50, if not 100%.
Right, right. And just a reminder, we are talking to Ms. Beula Christy, PhD and head of Institute of Vision Rehab, and TV Aishwarya, who is a rehab counselor. We're talking about vision rehabilitation for improved quality of life. So if you have any questions, please post it on the live feeds or on the chat here. Um, Continuing with you, Beula. So, in terms of, we talked of the barriers, you also talked of the psychological issues, and I guess the big challenge is, one is acceptance, and then, kind of continuing to persist. What, and this is for both of you, I think Aishwarya and Beula, how do you navigate that with somebody, a family that comes to see you?
Yeah. So first of all, we have to, explain them their the medical condition the way they can understand. If I simply say it's Stargardt's or it is retinitis pigmentosa, they're not going to understand. So just explain them, like, what is the category of vision loss? Is this a stable condition, or that do you expect any further vision loss, deterioration in vision? And then, conduct the assessment, spend time with the family members, and then talk to the individuals if they are grown up adults, and then find out the existing capacities, their abilities, then address the things that they are not able to do, then prioritize their goals, what they want to do. I may have
Hmm.
100 things, but then what is their priority, what is their immediate need? Then sit with them and then work out a plan that will work good for them. So in case of children, it is primarily with the family, because
Right.
even if they are coming to the center in a day, maximum of 3 hours they spend time with this, but the remaining time the child is going to live with the family. So the family environment, it has to be changed. It is not only the father and mother, it is the extended family members, grandparents, siblings, probably in some cases the neighborhood also. So all that we have to discuss with them. Then we plan the intervention. Then we go based on the plan, and once in 3 months we evaluate how far we have achieved. Is there any backlog, and then is there anything, something that we have to change in our strategies? Because the same thing like what I'm doing for a particular eye condition will not work for a different person. Their circumstances may be completely different, so it varies from person to person. So but the common framework is counseling, and then identifying their strengths, identifying their limitations, sit with them and then work out on a plan and implement, evaluate, again implement, re-evaluate, and it goes on.
Right.
Aishwarya, would you like to
Yeah.
add?
Yeah, adding to what Beula Garu said, after the initial counseling and at the end of it, you assess where they have reached and all. It is also like important to involve them in different things. Like example, having them interact with other people who have sight loss, because what happens, most of them, they think we are alone and we don't know what to do. But when they interact with others, that encourages them. They're like, okay, these people are living by themselves, they're independent. So that motivates them. And second also is, time and again keep telling them that there are facilities. Like when we hear counsel some parents or even individuals with visual impairment, they're like, where do I go, what do I do? I mean, they may not be even aware of, like a simple example is, how do they read books? So they may not be even aware that there are facilities like audiobooks, e-books and braille books. They may not be aware of that. So giving them this awareness time and again. And even when it comes to employment, many come, where do they work, are there is there employment opportunities for them? So these are the questions. If these questions are addressed, and then how Beula Garu said, guiding them time to time, that actually makes a big impact.
Right. Thank you. So one question on that, which has just come as well. If I am somebody who's been diagnosed with, say, retinitis pigmentosa, and I'll extend that to even somebody who's got a diagnosis of glaucoma, for instance, and maybe it's not the early stages, at what stage should they consider, vision rehab? And not just, could be any of these eye conditions where the eyesight is going to get worse over time. So at what stage should they be looking for help in terms of rehab?
I would say the moment you are diagnosed with some impairment, whether it is the permanent or deteriorating condition, because
Right.
when you approach us, then we can guide you accordingly. We can tell you, especially in case of deteriorating conditions, many of them are taking some certain streams. It's not that visually impaired cannot do science stream, but then the same time, it's sometimes it's difficult for all the visually impaired to do science. So if you know your eye condition, if you approach us in advance, we can tell you the pros and cons, and based on that you can decide your strength, and then you can choose the stream that you want to study. And that holds true with many other things also, even for your career growth, career path, if you want to decide, or for your environment modifications. Based on your eye conditions, we suggest you some certain modifications. Probably you need to have control illumination, or you to have indirect lighting, or the bright lighting. Probably your impairment is very mild, but then approaching the professional and then having a consultation will help you, will boost your confidence, so that you can be rest assured, yes, there is someone to guide you all the time. So I would say the earliest possible.
Right. And if you are somebody, for instance, you are an older person who's say in the 50s or 40s, and you've had a stroke, and some of it comes back on its own, for instance, post stroke. We've spoken to a few people, but a few people, they always have a few issues with the eyesight, or clarity of vision, or certain peripheral vision, etc. So again, and they're very busy, right? I mean, especially for some of these conditions like stroke, and I'm sure even Aishwarya must have felt that when she had a tumor. You are so busy dealing with all the other aspects that you kind of do the bare minimum as far as say vision rehab is concerned, or nobody really prioritizes this. How again do what do you think is the reason for this not being treated as priority, and how can that be changed?
Aishwarya, would you like to start? I can continue.
Sure, ma'am. So in my case, my health was the primary thing. So it was more of like it was a survival game. So that is the reason why the focus was once, first on health. But then when I knew that okay, this is over, I have recuperated, and I need to do something with my life. That is when the rehabilitation came in. But in others, like where is just the condition like retinitis pigmentosa, and when somebody comes here, so we kind of tell them, like example, a person with retinitis pigmentosa may not want to undergo mobility training in the beginning itself. But then they may have problem identifying potholes, or getting down the stairs. So what we tell them is like, you don't need to use the cane all the time, but carry it just in case. And also when it comes to using assistive technology, even the apps and all, so they may initially want to use magnifiers. So we tell them, okay, there are facilities, even though you have low vision, but then you can make use of magnifiers, and then you can shift to a screen reader. So this is what I would like to add.
Right, right.
So
Thanks.
addressing specifically to patients who have vision loss because of stroke. Unfortunately, there are patients who are coming at a later time, like Aishwarya. But then if at all, if they can manage to come, there are several things that we can work on, like how we do the early intervention for children. The best part of neuroplasticity, though it works in the critical period, developmental period of the first 5 years, there are many evidence-based publications available that says like neuroplasticity works even among
Correct.
adults and elderly, and we have seen it ourselves. We are handling patients with stroke and then having vision impairment. There's a therapy called Senate Vision Integrated Therapy, so through which there are various visual skills you can develop. So vision is a learned skill. So through the therapy, you can again, train your brain to learn the skills. It may not be the absolute 6/6 vision you can get back. It may be possible. We are not sure about it. But then definitely there is improvement, and then we are seeing the visual skills are improving to the patients who are undergoing the therapy. And the vision therapy and some amount of physiotherapy combined with the mobility training, all of that will certainly help patients who have vision loss and then stroke.
Right. And in terms of patients who have conditions like retinopathy or macular degeneration, again, what's at play? Is it similar to the approach you give to patients with retinitis pigmentosa, or it's different? How, broadly, because these are typically people who are older, right? So what's the approach for them?
This may vary from person to person. See, because within RP, within retinitis pigmentosa, no two person will have same amount of, vision loss. So say diagnosed with retinitis pigmentosa, 2200 as of today. But then within 6 months, one person may lose complete vision. The other person may still have vision, some useful vision left till the age of 50 or even beyond that. So based on that, and also the support they get from the family, so all of that makes the difference. So rehabilitation is completely unique need based, but broadly we can say, like, based upon the eye condition, we can categorize them, people, persons who are having vision loss, overall blurred vision, or central vision, or peripheral vision. So blurred vision and central vision loss, pretty much they will have the stable vision. They can manage things. So probably they can come once in a year for follow-up rehabilitation. Wherein people who are having peripheral vision loss, probably their needs may change more quickly. And similarly, in case of children, they may have to come more frequently because of their emerging needs. And in case of children, in case of elderly, probably once in 6 months or once a year if they come, that's a good period for them.
Right. And this might require you to kind of repeat a little bit because we got a question on the Facebook feed. Uh, both eyes, amblyopia, 6/18 BE, and no improvement with refraction with normal retina in 10 years old. How to counsel parents and the child?
So amblyopia, definitely we can try with visual skills training. So what we do that apart from the SVA therapy that we do, we also give them home-based activities which they have to do regularly. So the SVA therapy, that's a mission-based activity wherein your performance is recorded on daily basis. If somebody is interested, I can post you the details. You can share it in the group, about the therapy, how it works and everything about it. So what is happening is, once they undergo the therapy, after that, we give them the home-based activities which they have to, continue. So we have seen improvement among children with amblyopia. So if the second stage would be, conducting the low vision examination, and then see like, what could be their best corrected visual acuity, both high contrast, low contrast, and check for their other visual functions, and then see like what low vision devices can help them. It could be for distance or for near. When they say 6/18, the best corrected visual acuity, I think that the child may have problem with board work and related aspect, and also probably have problem in reading fine print like dictionary, the superscript sort of things. So definitely low vision devices will help them. And the
Right.
third thing would be suggestions on environment modifications. So these things will definitely help the child or the adult to perform better.
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much. I think that was an excellent detailed response. In terms of, I know when we previously spoke, you talked of a few online sessions, tele-rehab that's available. So if you can just let the audience know so that, again, they can reach out and any resources that you think would be useful. You can send us the links later and we'll add it. But if
Yeah.
you can also talk about it briefly.
So telerehabilitation is something that we have, learned during the pandemic, and that's really working good. We are still continuing it. This is especially for people who are traveling from different states other than the Hyderabad, Secunderabad, twin cities, and also from other nations also. So what we do is generally we plan the package the program for a certain period, 10 days or 1 month, depending upon the various needs of the person. Then we train them in a day at least about 3 years, and we involve one of the family members in the training. So they undergo the basic training, they learn everything, and the further training it is done through the telerehabilitation. So, for example, if it is a simple braille training, all of a sudden, if I'm teaching braille to a parent, they may not understand what it is, from where to begin, where to end. But
Right.
having a basic idea of it, then for me it's easier to train the parent. Now we have finished grade 1 braille and grade 2 is like this. So for that matter, any services including the physiotherapy, speech therapy, the vision therapy, all of these activities, what is must is they have to be here for certain period to learn the basics, post which they can continue to avail the services online. And
Right.
it works for all services, low vision services, rehab services for the totally blind, or for children with multiple disabilities.
Right. That reminds me, we didn't actually touch upon it. Is the assessment and the rehab for low vision versus totally blind different?
Completely. Yeah. So for the low vision, we go by the visual functions.
Right.
There are 5 visual functions: the visual acuity, the contrast, visual fields, stereopsis. So all of that will do all the 5 key functions. Wherein in case of totally blind, it is the functional vision. Functional vision means whatever residual vision you have, with it, what different functions you can execute. So, for example, if I'm having only the light perception, with that I can't do anything. I can't read, I can't write. But then if that light perception is helping me to find my way, okay, this is the door out, this is how I have to go, or can I use that vision to locate some object? So what is remaining, based on that the management is planned. Wherein, on the other hand, for the low vision, how best we can enhance the residual vision through various low vision devices, or what strategies. It could be the head scanning or eccentric viewing, the different strategies by which you can make use of your vision better.
Right. Right. And I think, I mean, Aishwarya anyway has talked about how she's been able to become an employed person as well, right? After going through her assessment and her rehab and everything. What is the, I know we talk about other people who are active and employable now with, even though they're visually impaired. What is your view, Beula ji, on this whole, uh, how feasible or what percentage of people who go through rehab get employment, because that's one of the, I guess, motivations for people to persist and make that effort so that there is possible value, not just in terms of independent activities of daily living, but also employability.
Yeah, earlier it used to be like visually impaired means they are capable of doing only certain, tasks. The highest what you would think would be announcer in the railway station or somewhere, or a teacher.
Mm.
But now gone are those days, thanks to the technology.
Right.
We have the computer training lab like Aishwarya's. There are many students who are trained and they are well placed, right from intermediate up to any level, BTech, MTech. So the students are from different level. So once if they undergo the formal training, so the training is such that they are familiarized to use the computer the way you and me are using it for any reasons, any purpose, right from using these social websites or any program. So once if they are thorough with it, then they are well placed. So I'm very happy and proud to say last month we placed one of our clients in Apple. That's the highest we have done. So
Right.
right from intermediate level, we place them at retail stores like Big Bazaar, Spencer's. And then if they are graduates and above, then we are placing them in different companies, banking sectors. I can proudly say many of our clients are placed in companies like Infosys, Tech Phoenix, Deloitte, so many other companies.
Mm.
And then on the other hand, those who are illiterate or below 8th standard, again for them earlier it used to be pottery, candle making, but
Right.
now we are empowering them. We give them training on certain aspects. Right now in our institute we have established the vocational training unit, wherein we have the tailoring and other jobs that probably you may think like, is it possible for the visually impaired to do, needlework sort of thing. There are multiple things that we are doing, like vermicompost, and then jewelry making, home decors. Many options are available.
Right.
So all of that post training, we help them establish their trade. We involve family members so that it becomes a sustainable trade. So I think employment, there are wider opportunities available now. One should come forward, then there are many opportunities for them. They can lead an independent, dignified life.
Thank you. Thank you. Aishwarya, anything else that you would like to add to this? Because I think this is definitely, I mean, we have come across even in our own interactions, people who are entrepreneurs, people who are, there's somebody I know who is an editor of a newspaper. So, there is no, even in terms of activities that you would think are so intensive in terms of eyesight, but and you would not have imagined that they can handle it, but they are. Then, as you said, tech companies are also a big area where a lot of them do work. Aishwarya, anything else that you would like to add to this based on your experience?
Yeah, I think on a like I personally know some of my friends who are visually impaired. They are very well placed in different companies, being project managers, then cyber experts, consulting engineers. What happens when earlier, if you look like 10 years back, many companies, because of lack of awareness, they would not really accommodate people with visual impairment, but because people are taking up these different fields, when it comes to their professional front. There is also, like, these days, if you see, many companies are encouraging workplace inclusion. They
Right.
have messages saying that, okay, Amazon or Synchrony Financial, they are recruiting candidates with disabilities. And also, I've seen one more change is that earlier, when it means persons with disabilities, it could be only those with hearing impairment or orthopedically, those of orthopedically handicapped. But nowadays, we are also seeing that people with visual impairment, both low vision and who have complete vision loss, are being recruited in companies. So that is a big change, I feel, in a country like India.
Right. One question that's come in, Beula, on color blindness. Is there anything that can be done for that?
Color blindness treatment as such is not possible.
Not so much
but then-
treatment, but rehab,
Yes,
I
yeah. For
guess.
rehabilitation aspect, we use D15, to measure their deficiency level, and then based upon their need, if they are students, their needs are different, and if they are employed, their needs are different. If they are employed, probably change in occupation or then change in department, such suggestions we can make. But if they are students, there are different strategies by which they can recognize colors. Like,
Right.
for example, a red pencil, if a student is not able to recognize, just label it as red, so that the child, in a map, you can't use red color to, paint mountain. The teacher obviously will not give mark. So, such
Right.
smaller strategies and tips. And in case of daily use, if you are finding it difficult to, identify your clothes, there are, QR codes available, an app called Spacewell that comes with, QR code labels, so through which you can locate things. There are different things, the technology which is available. Those tips we can suggest.
Right. Thank you. I will see if I can very quickly run. No, it's not loaded. I was trying to see if we could run the video, but I will add that in the link. There's a short video that we have where, there. Aishwarya, do you want to talk about that art exhibition? Then we'll add
Yes.
the link to that later.
Yeah. So this is about the 3D
Yeah.
tactile painting. When it comes to art, nobody would imagine a person who has visual impairment doing the painting. So what we did here at LV Prasad is we tried to make accessible ways in which they can do the painting themselves. So we conducted a workshop in 2019, wherein there were 16 artists with visual impairment, and some of them, three of them I remember, are congenitally blind. So we actually made a color reference sheet for them. Just now, like Beula Garu was saying, if there's a pencil, you label it as red. Same way, in that color reference sheet had indication pointers like, okay, leaves are green in color, light green, dark green, yellow, or a monsoon sky is gray or black in color. So these are the references that we gave in the sheet. And then they created this tactile paintings using aluminum foil, and right from the first stage, like aluminum foil, and then gluing paper on it, and then coloring it. So this way it actually brought out the artist in them. So 16 artists got to do it. It was in 2019, and later on we exhibited their artworks, and it was highly appreciated because nobody were able to believe that, oh my god, these artworks were done by people with visual impairment.
You're muted, Aparna.
Yeah, so we will add a link to that, to the short video on tactile painting that Aishwarya just talked about. It is really incredible. Even if you just watch the first couple of minutes, I think it gives you a sense. Any final words? I think we've taken a few questions already. So any final words? We'll start with you, Aishwarya.
I think as a person with visual impairment and also working here as a counselor, rehabilitation is where the independence starts. So whether it be education, employment, independent life, rehabilitation is where it all begins. And I think people who have vision impairment, they should understand this. Their family should motivate them, no matter how difficult it is for them initially. But once they undergo rehabilitation services, there's nothing that could stop them, and all the impossible things would seem possible then.
Thank you. Thank you so for summarizing that so well. Beula, final words
Yeah,
from you.
she said it all. My request would be for the ophthalmologist and for the family members. Just make an attempt. Just, bring them to the rehabilitation centers without any expectations. And I can promise you, you can see miracles happening. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. And I think it is important. I think just as we have now accepted things like physiotherapy as normal for whenever you have an issue, which is to do with your mobility, it's also important to understand that there is vision rehab. And I think to Beula's point, yes, it's also important for ophthalmologists to be aware of these services and these centers and to direct their patients to them. And also for family members to know that rehab is possible and people can live independent lives, they can live productive and employable lives as well, and they can have social lives as well, right? So you kind of meet all of the needs of quality of life if you kind of go through that rehab and you don't give up on it. And as we've heard from Aishwarya and the examples of Beula, and there is improvement is always possible. There are ways and means available. There is technology available now. So do reach out. I think there were a few requests for links and resources, so we will add them in the notes and the comments and share it as well later on. So, and if there's any questions, you can always reach out to us or reach out to LV Prasad or IHOPE as well. Thank you so much for your time on a Saturday afternoon, both to the audience for watching and to the two panelists who've taken time out on a Saturday to
Thank you.
do this session.
Thank you.